Welcome to the deep dive. We're switching gears a bit today.
Oh,
Yeah, instead of our usual pile of articles and research, we're diving into something a little different.
okay. I'm intrigued.
It's a YouTube video.
A YouTube video. All right, lay it on me.
It's about this guy. He buys a vintage semi-truck off Facebook Marketplace.
Ah,
And get this, he decides to make it his daily driver.
wait, hold on. His daily driver.
You heard that right. I know it sounds crazy, but stick with me.
All right, you've got my attention. What's the point of this deep dive? What are we looking for here?
So at first glance, it's just a fun, kind of quirky story, right?
Right.
But the deeper you go, it brings up all these questions about nostalgia, practicality, and just the sheer dedication it takes to go after a passion project, especially one this, well, unconventional.
Yeah, I can already see how this is going to be a unique one.
Exactly. So let me introduce you to our main character, Jeremiah. He's a self-proclaimed gearhead, obsessed with big rigs since he was a kid.
I can relate to that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about certain vehicles,
Absolutely.
it captures the imagination. Like semi-trucks, they're symbols of freedom, adventure, a simpler time maybe.
Yeah, you see that romanticization in other things too, like farming or craftsmanship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Jeremiah's journey, it shows the reality, right?
Wow, yeah.
The grit, the struggle, the stuff we don't usually see.
You hit the nail on the head. It's easy to get swept up in that romanticized version.
Sure.
And Jeremiah, he kind of lays it all out in the video, talks about his obsession with the trucking industry, movies like Smokey and the Bandit,
Classics.
Convoy, all that. It really fueled his imagination.
And that whole era, mid-20th century, the trucking industry was beaming.
Right around when Jeremiah's truck was built, too.
Exactly. Interstates popping up everywhere, consumer goods flowing, trucks became
And
essential.
covering everything. Food, fuel, the whole 9 yards.
The backbone of the American economy, and in a lot of ways still are.
Absolutely. But let's get back to Jeremiah and this dream truck of his. Did he say what kind he ended up with?
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Oh, yeah. He managed to snag a 1977 Kenworth K100 Cabover.
A cover, huh?
Yeah, one of those flat front trucks where the driver sits over the engine. They called it Bud.
But I like it.
Snagged it for $10,000 on Facebook Marketplace.
Wow, not bad.
They were popular back then, those Cabovers. The shorter wheelbase made them easier to maneuver.
Easier, maybe. But I still can't imagine trying to handle a 50-year-old truck like that in today's traffic.
Oh, it's something else. He mentions a custom paint job, a unique truck bed, but he doesn't really go into detail about that.
Okay.
What he does focus on is the engine.
Ah, now we're talking.
And this is where things get really interesting.
I bet. What's Bud packing under the hood?
So it's a Detroit Diesel 6V71T, a two-stroke diesel engine
No kidding.
with both a supercharger and a turbocharger.
Whoa. Talk about a beast.
This thing's a rare find for sure. Two-stroke engines are all about raw power,
Yeah, they deliver it in a whole different way than your typical car engine.
Right. It's fitting for Bud, over 2,000 pounds, 280 horsepower,
Oof.
and a whopping 800 pound-feet of torque. Jeremiah's pretty excited about all that power, but the reality of owning and driving this vintage behemoth, well, it sets in pretty quickly.
I can imagine. Was he romanticizing the past a bit, you think?
Maybe. Trucking was a tough job then, and it still is now.
Right. So is this about reliving a fantasy, or is there something deeper driving him?
That's a great question. And it gets even more interesting when you see the challenges he runs into right from the start.
Okay. Like what? I'm all ears.
Well, first of all, he admits he doesn't actually know how to drive a semi-truck.
Oh, no. That's not ideal, is it?
Not at all. Imagine trying to learn on a truck that size in the middle of a city.
Yikes.
Then there's the issue of parking. Spoiler alert. It doesn't fit on the street.
Of course not.
So he ends up parking it in his friend Joby's backyard.
He parks a semi in his friend's backyard.
Oh, it gets better. The gate to the backyard is locked.
Oh.
So Jeremiah, he gets a little creative. Let's just say bolt cutters were involved.
Wow, that's a dedicated friend or a very forgiving one.
Right. And on top of all that, can you imagine the cost to fill up the tank on a truck like that? It has 212-gallon fuel tanks at $5.40 a gallon.
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
Over $1,000 to fill it up.
You got it.
Ouch. That's commitment. Makes you wonder about the financial side of these passion projects, how sustainable they really are.
He wisely opts for a quick hundo instead of filling it all the way up.
Smart move.
But that's just the beginning. Wait till you hear about his attempt to take Bud through a car wash.
Speaking of practicality, that's what I was wondering about before. He took it to a car wash. How'd that even work?
Picture this. He pulls up to this automated car wash,
Okay, yeah.
and it's immediately obvious Bud is not going to fit.
I was going to say.
The truck's way too tall, those giant side mirrors sticking out like wings.
Oh, I bet the other people waiting in line were loving that.
Oh, yeah, you can see them in the video just looking at him like, is this guy serious? And he goes for it, somehow manages to inch the truck into the wash bay.
I can't even imagine.
But the brushes, they're barely reaching the sides. The top of the cab is completely missed.
It's like trying to wash an elephant with a garden hose.
Right. But Jeremiah, he's totally unfazed.
I didn't record.
Just shrugs it off, says, well, it's half a truck wash.
Huh. That's a good attitude.
It kind of felt like a turning point, though, you know? Like the impracticality of it all really hit home.
Yeah, maybe a vintage semi isn't your ideal car wash companion.
You think that's part of the appeal for him, though, the constant problem solving?
Maybe. That clash between his romanticized vision and the day-to-day reality.
Like he's got to prove he can make it work no matter what.
Interesting. So what does he take it mudding next?
Not quite, but he does try using the truck for grocery shopping.
Oh, no.
It's amazing. He tries to fit a shopping cart in the cab. No chance.
Yeah, I figured.
So this classic clash of expectations versus reality.
There's something about this video, though, it really resonates with people.
I know what you mean.
It's like that desire for simpler times, a tangible project, getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, you can see it in the comments, that longing for things to be less complicated. But it's also celebrating that DIY spirit, right? That with enough passion, you can tackle anything.
Absolutely. No matter how crazy.
So then he decides to try taking Bud out of the city, onto the open road.
Okay, now we're talking.
Even tries loading a motorcycle on the back to take to the track.
That's more like it. How'd that go?
Let's just say loading a motorcycle onto a tall truck bed, not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's some scrambling, a few near drops. Bud gets a couple more scrapes.
Earning his battle scars.
But he gets it done.
Got to give him credit. He doesn't shy away from showing the struggles.
Oh yeah, he embraces them. They're all part of the journey.
It's a good reminder, these passion projects, they're rarely smooth sailing.
Especially with 50-year-old vehicles.
Right. There's going to be setbacks, unexpected costs, moments you wonder what you're doing.
But as Jeremiah shows us, those challenges, they're often what make it memorable.
It's about the dedication, the problem solving, that joy of making a dream happen.
Even if it means breaking a few locks and squeezing a semi through a car wash along the way.
Exactly. So what about the overall message of the video? What do you think he's trying to say?
On one level, it's a love letter to old school trucking, you know.
Yeah.
That nostalgia for a time when things were simpler, less tech-heavy.
You can tell he really connects with the history of the truck.
But it's more than just nostalgia.
I think it's also about inspiring people.
To chase their own passions.
Even if they seem a little impractical at first, he's not just showing off the truck. He's sharing the whole journey, the good and the bad.
Inviting people along for the ride.
Yeah. And it's amazing how these, sometimes the most unlikely sources, they can offer the most profound insights.
Who knew a video about a guy and his vintage semi could spark this kind of conversation?
It's the power of human ingenuity, that drive. Sometimes the most fulfilling journeys are the ones we least expect.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Jeremiah's adventure, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay, I'm listening.
What seemingly impractical passion project would you pursue if you had the chance? What wild idea, what crazy dream have you tucked away? We're not talking about, you know, starting a business or climbing the corporate ladder or anything like that.
Right.
This is about those passion projects that really light you up.
The ones you maybe don't even tell your friends about.
Yeah.
They might think you're crazy.
Exactly. And maybe you are. Maybe that's the whole point.
Maybe that's where the real magic is, right?
Yeah.
Stepping outside the practical, the expected.
Embracing that pure joy of creating something totally unique to you.
You know, Jeremiah's story, it's a perfect example of that.
It is.
He could have easily spent his time and money on something way more conventional.
Oh, absolutely.
But he chose this crazy dream of his.
And not only is he living it out, but he's inspiring others to do the same.
It's like he's saying, hey, if I can do this with a 50-year-old semi-truck,
Right.
imagine what you can do.
With your own passions and skills.
Exactly. It's about pushing past those limitations, you know.
Those voices telling us to play it safe.
Stick to the path.
When really it's those detours, those unexpected turns that lead to the most rewarding destinations.
Couldn't agree more.
So, we want to hear from you.
Oh.
What's your bud? That project, that dream you've been putting off?
Tell us about it.
Head over to our social media pages, share it with us.
Let's inspire each other.
Dust off those forgotten dreams, embrace the unconventional.
Show the world what happens when passion meets possibility.
Who knows, maybe your story will be the next one we feature right here on The Deep Dive.
Until then,
Keep diving deep, keep
and
exploring.
keep those engines roaring.